Stephen Greer, over on his own YouTube channel just a few hours ago, has made quite a bold statement suggesting that there are some group of people going into Congress trying to manipulate the congressman by suggesting that Stephen Greer is somehow a Russian spy. What's more alarming is that Greer makes not quite a prediction, but a suggestion that whoever is in control of this reverse engineer technology, this kind of elite group of people, are not only illegal and rogue, but also sociopathic and basically, not good people and kind of crazy. And that these people are planning a kind of world disaster in which he describes the idea of a meteorite being pulled in purposefully through alien technology closer to the Earth to create massive global natural disasters. And Greer's logic behind this is that the few that survive will be more easily controllable.
There are people who are identified with the UFO subject who I have had confirmed directly in the last 2 or 3 weeks from a member of Congress in a key committee investigating this, that have deliberately gone up to these key members of Congress and apparently people at Aero and the Pentagon and other offices, stating that I, Dr. Stephen Greer, am a Russian espionage agent and a Mossad agent. This is false, but it's criminal. And so we've run this up the flagpole into law enforcement and attorneys, and the people, all of you listening will guess who they are, who have been saying this are guilty of multiple federal criminal offenses which have been referred to the FBI, and I am insisting be pursued and run to ground. What am I saying? I'm saying that the people who are going up to Capitol Hill and in the circles in the White House saying this have done so for the purpose of blocking the whistleblowers we have and the evidence we have from getting to the very people who have been tasked by the federal government to look into it. That is a major federal crime, each occurrence. So each time that has been said and done based on false statements of me being a Russian agent is a federal crime, and it's a major one. So that's all getting referred this week. In fact, it got referred semi-officially about a month ago. But at this point, we now have proof of it, because I've had members of Congress confirm it to people, both me and people on my team. And so this then creates a serious issue, because the people who think they were going to just play ufology 101 child's play, and some of them are unwitting players, perhaps, and some are witting, knowing what they're doing. They're now in a world of trouble in terms of a federal crime, multiple federal crimes, because they have been facilitating the cover-up, lying to members of Congress, and influencing offices like Aero and other offices, as well as key committees in the Senate and the House, and deterring them from being able to get to the truth by, in fact, there was a member of Congress I've worked with for a number of years who said to another member who I met with 2 weeks ago, who said, "Oh, you can't talk to Dr. Greer. We've learned he's a Russian espionage agent." Now, this is serious, because what that is not about me. It's about the fact that I'm sitting on this mountain of evidence and whistleblower testimony, and it is precisely what the House Oversight, Senate Intelligence, and Armed Services Committees want. And it's precisely what the White House and law enforcement and Department of Justice want. And those people have gone in making up these false allegations, which are provably false. It's been checked out through intel and law enforcement. This is all completely false. And they continue to do this. Look, there's a whole, let's call them a whole basket of technologies that have been developed since the 50s that deal with mass control, gravity control, things like this. And we know that part of that organization wants to create worldwide chaos so that they can step into the chaos and create a sort of a global totalitarian organization that runs the planet. That's exactly what the warm-up 9/11 was, and I think COVID was largely exploited by those same interests that way. But this is the big one. Now, being able to do what that I've had back in the 90s, I had an intelligence source who described that program where they could move an asteroid and have it hit or go near the Earth. But then, back in about 2 years ago, or a little over, Jake Barber himself had been read into an operation like that, and he thought I'd be shocked. I said, no, I knew about this in the late 90s, and that there was an operation that had the ability to move that kind of object. In that case, the ETs came in and moved it out of the way. And so I always tell people, even though they're always being defamed and all kinds of mythologies around aliens, in reality, they've saved our bacon more times than you can imagine, both in terms of preventing nuclear catastrophes, but also geophysical catastrophes. But here's a problem. What happens when our technologies reach the point of parity, as good as the ET technologies, and then we're forcing them out of the arena? Who's then protecting the Earth from these psychopaths, this transnational criminal organization? My information is that it's unlikely we're going to go 2 more years without some catastrophic events happening unless we get not only asymmetric disclosure to prime the pump of official disclosure and get the bureaucrats and the government people, engaged fully.
And Greer's logic behind this is that the few that survive will be more easily controllable. I use that exact phrasing because it reminds me heavily of a phone call that Art Bell received on the radio station.
Line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello, Art.
Yes.
Hi. I don't have a whole lot of time.
Well, look, let's begin by finding out whether you're using this line properly or not.
Area 51.
Yeah, that's right. Were you an employee or are you now?
A former employee.
Former employee.
I was let go on a medical discharge about a week ago, and I've kind of been running across the country. Oh man, I don't know where to start. They're gonna triangulate on this position really soon.
So you can't spend a lot of time on the phone. So give us something quick.
Okay. Okay. What we're thinking of as aliens are they're extra-dimensional beings that an earlier precursor of the space program made contact with. They are not what they claim to be. They have infiltrated a lot of aspects of the military establishment, particularly the Area 51. The disasters that are coming, the military, the government knows about them, and there's a lot of safe areas in this world that they could begin moving the population to now, Art.
But they're not doing anything.
They are not. They want the major population centers wiped out so that the few that are left will be more easily controllable.
Discharge.
I started getting...
What's interesting is the year 2027 has been going around a lot recently, and Greer specifically says in the next 2 years. It's 2025 at the moment, so that would be 2027. Interestingly, he does say that the non-human intelligence tries to help humanity, and if a meteorite is attempted to be pulled in, that they will intervene and try to pull it back out and remove it and stop it from happening. Let's, if it's not just ridiculous kind of conspiracy drama, with no truth to it. If it has any remote possibility of happening, let's pray that is the case, that it would be stopped and that wouldn't be allowed to happen. If that can happen, it's a pretty scary world we live in, that these kinds of people that are wired that way, to think this way, have control of the most powerful technology on the planet. That's utterly terrifying. I have quite a fascination with Indian enlightened saints throughout history, old and new. It's something that I have a personal interest in, and these enlightened saints develop spiritual abilities. In some instances, these are known as siddhis, spiritual powers. They can vary in what those are, but one of them is cognitively having visions of the future, seeing the future before it happens. One of the saints described in this book is Sambhari Baba, who had numerous kind of miracles happen around him, and he had an ability to get glimpses of the future. He couldn't tell the whole future, but he'd get little glimpses, flashes of certain elements of the future. Future is in like within minutes or hours of the day that he was in, and could prepare ahead of time for certain people coming, because he knew ahead of time that someone was going to come. But then in some cases he would glimpse far into the future. He details a vision, and he says that he sees a time, and bear in mind this is a man living in India, which has an absolutely massive population, and he detailed a time where a man or a woman, a person, a human being, would have to walk more than 2 miles in any direction before finding a single other person. Most parts of the world, if you can try to imagine walking for 2 miles in any direction before you find one other person, that is a lot of missing people. That's a far less population, which would indicate some kind of presumably disaster, or the only other way that could happen maybe is that it's a future where we've gone interplanetary and half the civilization have gone off planet to the moon or to Mars or something, or in interstellar spaceships. Possibly that is the best case scenario for a world where you have to walk 2 miles before finding anyone. If that's not the case, then something disastrous does happen at some point that obviously hasn't happened yet. He described that in that time, in that place where you have to walk miles before finding anyone else, that humans would then understand what love is. It's kind of an ominous warning, but I think it's relevant to today's discussion. We're talking about some parts of the human population, a very minority number of people, having power over advanced alien technology, potentially hundreds of years more advanced than the rest of humanity, and it's in a black budget. It's completely hidden, it's completely separated from Congress, from the president, from any kind of oversight. We don't really know who's running it, but they seem to be. And it's a kind of a scary thing. And if they do the wrong move, if they're shooting down flying saucers and capturing them, and they've got biological beings that they've captured apparently, what the hell are we doing? Why are we trying to have war with advanced beings from other star systems or other dimensions even? It's absolute lunacy. It's a whole rabbit hole of a discussion, which maybe we can get into in another video. But today I just wanted to kind of give an update on the situation that we're hearing about, which is utterly insane. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'll see you again in another video. Be well, take care, and goodbye.
Obviously, the ET craft do exist. Something had to build them, so there must be aliens. And since there are and the craft are there must be some sort of factory and an entire civilization somewhere.